Hello there, BTC podcast family. We are back at it again. My name is Mmusi Kgafela, aka Lezoji, aka Lezo. Bringing you yet another thrill of an exciting episode. Of course, we are out here this time around. Something different, I must say. I don't know if you can see in the back, but we are somewhere outside of Gaborone, Remo Francis Town to be exact, at the 17th National Business Conference, and it's brought to you by Business Botswana in partnership with Botswana's Ministry of Trade and Industry, Debswana, Botswana Ash, as well as First National Bank. And we have exciting conversations on the way. Seated right across me is a honorable member, somebody we've never had before on the podcast. We've never had any honorables around, so this is a first for the books, and we're so excited to be having him join us today. Honorable Mmusi Kgafela from the Ministry of Trade and Industry is joining us today. How are you, Honorable? Are you well?
I'm well, ma'am. I'm excited. I'm pleased to be here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, and we're also pleased to have you here joining us on the BTC podcast, Kwanomo Francis Town.
Yes,
I want to first of all pick your brain about the BTC podcast. If you've maybe seen any of our episodes, have you?
Regrettably not, ma'am. I'm hearing about it for the first time when you invited me to come and engage. So I must confess I didn't know about you.
Well, I hope from this you'll definitely have some sort of insight as to what we do here.
Certainly.
So from our side, we are mandated to give meaningful conversations, talk about innovation, talk about solutions, and we speak to, powerful people such as yourself, Yana, who contribute to what happens even in our country, And I think maybe let's just start off with the mandate of your Ministry of Trade and Industry. For Motho e leng gore doesn't really understand what the role of the ministry is or what it does, how would you describe it?
It boils down to growth of the economy. But there are many things which need to be done, many other institutions which need to work together in order for the economy to be grown, ma'am. Firstly, we have embarked on ensuring that it is easy to do business in this country, because making it easy to do business means making it less costly to do business and more profit for the business, for the entrepreneurs. So we hunt within our policies and our laws, not only those which fall under the ministry, but those which fall under all other ministries. We hunt for those laws and policies and regulations which impede the doing of business. We urge upon sector ministries in charge of them to assist us to repeal them where they are, including in policies. We also nudge ministries to be robust and be deliberate about enforcing many of our policies which are in place. Our policies are very good. The only challenge that we see from time to time is lack of the enforcement, lack of implementation of them. But they are very good, well thought of, and we must be thankful to the officials, the government officials, who often are the ones tasked with the architects behind them. But obviously they then come to Parliament, and we must be thankful for parliamentarians for sinking their teeth into it and ensuring that they see the light of day. We also work a great deal in growing domestic investments. We have local investors who want to grow. Some are startups. Some are not startups, that are pre-existing, but they want to grow. So we assist them to accomplish the objective. But we are not alone in this. We are greatly assisted by the likes of Botswana Investment and Trade Center. We are assisted a great deal by Botswana Development Corporation and the Special Economic Zones Authority. They fall under us, the parastatals under our wing, our watch, our tutelage. They are the experts. Not only do we deal with domestic investment growth, but also foreign direct investments. We invite foreigners to come and pitch up here, set up, with a view to becoming export-oriented. A good investor, ma'am, is one who doesn't look into the government of the land for any or any assistance. It is one who sets up in order to deal with the private sector, either the domestic private sector or the private sector of other countries elsewhere. So we promote those because we know that there are a lot out there who are skilled, who have the experience, historical experience in being in certain sectors. We encourage them to come with our skills and that technical know-how. They've had experience in accessing foreign markets. So we attract them to set up here. We provide them with the landscape within which they can operate freely and feeling a great deal at ease. And we are known as Botswana to be, often we are compared with Switzerland. We are often referred to as the Switzerland of Africa. To be an environment in which there's very little cause for grief. We are known to be one in which people have access to judicial processes in the courts if they are grieved. We are known not to be an oppressive government. We are known not to nationalize businesses and assets of investors when they will have come here. One of the other things we are known for, which is a topic for debate though, free repatriation of profits. Some say it's not a good policy. Some say it is a good policy, but it is a very attractive phenomenon. When you speak to any foreign investor, when you drip into their or trickle into their ear that they'll be free to repatriate their profit. But in all, we seek to create employment because we have a whole lot of people who are aggrieved by being unemployed. So when we grow these industries which are surrounding us, which are existing, often there's occasion to create employment for those who are unemployed. We also look at issues of competitiveness. We try to grow the competitiveness of Botswana. Regrettably, often we are cited as one of those who are not doing so well when you sample us amongst many others on the competitive edge. But I think competitiveness, it calls for all of us to pull our socks. It's not government alone cannot get entrepreneurs to be competitive. They got to be thirsty to arm themselves with knowledge and skill, which can get them to become competitive. So we deal with anti-competitive behavior because it's very regressive, it's hurtful. It harms those who are victims of it a great deal. So we have the Competition and Consumer Authority who try to help us in that respect. You find anti-competitive behavior, ma'am, in many avenues. You find it within government itself, where government being the greatest procuring entity in the whole of the country. You do find snippets of it, where tender documents or invitations to tender are crafted in a way which is well calculated to exclude some parts of the community. So here and there, when we pick those things up, through the Competition and Consumer Authority, we step in, we intervene to get the procuring entity to correct so that we have more of inclusion of people, as His Excellency the President, Dr. Masisi, has urged all of us to do. Then you find ourselves excluding people. So we have that other authority which is helping us in that regard. We have our Botswana Bureau of Standards. We are a developing nation. We are not that advanced when it comes to setting standards, but they are, on a regular basis, they do come to me as a minister to approve of certain standards which they will have set, which then need to be gazetted in the form of statutory instruments. So they're trying their best to ensure that standards are set. But for us to be competitive, ma'am, we need to go way beyond the standards. These standards are bare minimum. You're not going to be competitive if you stick to the bare minimum. You've got to go an extra mile, go beyond the standards which are set, so that after all, the weight of consumerism, the weight of consumption is dictated by the extent to which you yourself acquit yourself as an entrepreneur, your altitude is determined by your attitude at the workplace or in what you do. So we urge upon our entrepreneurs, especially the young ones and the women folk, led enterprises to go just way beyond these standards which are set. BDC, they help us a great deal. The concept of public-private partnerships, it's more pronounced at BDC than anywhere else. It is an investment and an arm which assists us to, it has assisted us in the past, continues to assist us to see some of these otherwise difficult enterprises to see the light of day, for them to actually see the light of day. You see hospitals mushrooming, you see hotels mushrooming, you see other enterprises which an ordinary private sector led or a private sector operated enterprise would not find the funds with which, or the capital with which to get these things up. So that's where BDC comes in. So we have all these parastatals which are helping us, ma'am, to grow the economy. But it boils down, as I've said, to growing the economy. We set ourselves a target of 2036. Voices reaching my ears that we are not doing well there. Certain things have intervened, they've impeded us. And it looks to me like we need to leapfrog for us to get back onto the trajectory which is likely to get us to where we want in 2036. But I think even if we don't accomplish the objective of being a high-income economy, but if we come close to it or just fall short of it, I think it will be a great deal of an achievement if that occurs. But we need to just work all together. The private sector, there's no room, ma'am, for cutting corners. People have got to be resilient. They've got to be serious in what they do, and they've got to be patient in growing their enterprises, because no Rome wasn't built in a year. So any enterprise which seeks to get a shortcut in anything will set us back and keep us in a position where we're not so distant from the 1965 circumstances that when we got independence we found ourselves in economically. There's a lot. I think you may need to control my parameters. There's a lot I can just go on and on about, ma'am.
No, but I appreciate the picture that you've painted for us in terms of the Ministry of Trade and Industry and what exactly it does and how it facilitates economic growth in our country. And our theme for this year, UNEA National Business Conference, is invigorating economic transformation through the private sector. So I think one thing I also want to understand is how the Ministry of Trade and Industry encourages the private sector to adopt sustainable practices while contributing to the economic transformation, and what sort of incentives are being offered to support the private sector and private businesses, because this time around the theme is centered around transformation of private sector and encouraging the growth and how that fuels our economic wheels.
Much of the incentives, ma'am, they come from the Ministry of Finance. Obviously, we work hand in hand with them, but they're the ones statutorily who are responsible for taxes and many other matters relating to the fiscus. So the incentives that get given are really fiscus incentives, like cutting on taxes, so that they don't have to be laden with heavy taxes. You find that we may provide for tax cuts when it comes to importation of material with which to manufacture goods whose final destiny is outside, the export oriented. Because remember, His Excellency said in his first State of the Nation address in this term, he did say, if you recall, that we need to be, for us to survive, we need to be an export oriented economy. Many economists will tell you that if you don't export, you are destined to sink. So there's that incentive that you'll be given, that tax cut for importation of raw materials with which to manufacture. Corporate tax also is quite low in the region. I think it's about 25%. No, 25. No, not corporate. It's about 15%, if I'm not mistaken. Individual taxes also, they're quite low. Um, but one of the most recent incentives that started trickling in were to do with empowering local manufacturers,
Yeah.
local producers. And how did we go about doing so? We knew that we have a giant, or we are surrounded by giants, we are surrounded by economies who have developed way ahead of us. They started developing way before ours. And I suppose because they were very diversified, South Africa was very diversified, Namibia was diversified because of the colonial presence. There was some colonial presence in Botswana, but it wasn't that involved in the economy.
Yeah.
In these other countries, there was a colonial presence, but it was heavily involved in the economy of those countries. South Africa was, Namibia was, Zimbabwe was during Smith's time, and so too was Zambia. We were not. So it explains why, perhaps we found ourselves lagging behind all of these other. I think the only countries which were comparable to, which didn't have a colonial presence, which had a hand in the economy, is Eswatini and Lesotho, the three of us. It's possibly why we then joined hands and became people of a common feather. We became birds of a common feather with these. So we started recently on encroaching on free movement of goods into the country. Yes, I know that it hurts those who are used to Botswana being a free market into which they sent their goods. It does hurt them, but it had the effect of dwarfing or retarding the growth of Botswana in these industries. And you want Botswana to grow in these industries. They need to know how to do these things. But voices within the country were saying we are dampened. We are not given the opportunity because we cannot compete with the giants which live in our neighboring countries. So we had to come up with statutory instruments restricting entry of that, entry of this, entry of that into the country. And we are now seeing growth in the farming industry, in the horticultural sector. People are start saying, we are seeing developments. We are now becoming growing, and we will soon become gigantic also as everybody else has. But we needed that kind of support from government. And many other things. There are many which people are urging us to stop their entry into the country right now. We are working on them. We will obviously do an assessment of the proprietary, the competence of doing that or not. But Botswana are voicing out, they're getting it off their chest. They're saying, please, you need to support us we are an infant industry, and we must be given an opportunity to grow. So those are some of the incentives that you find us kicking into the industries to help them to have the appetite to participate in these industries. Some that we try to incentivize with are special economic zones. Once you set up in an economic zone, you know that you have a great deal of advantage over others. But of course, there's the debate as to who exactly is benefiting. Is it Botswana or foreigners out of these special economic zones? But it is a provision or an avenue available for Botswana to set foot in the special economic zones are export oriented, but it's not cast in stone. I can be approached as a minister to make exemptions and permit for local trade with from out of the special economic zones, which I seldom do very rarely. But if circumstances dictate that I do so, I will do so.
Yes.
But special economic zones, we incentivize people with them to try and grow gigantic industries out of them.
I think also something that I noticed, because I was go SOA last week, visiting SOA for the first time. Go neka ko the region yona ya Bonata yana. Re tswa go etela Botash, Botswana ash. We learned then gore the products that things di tsewang kwa, being the salt and the ash, they get exported to neighboring countries, for example, and they come back kwano as glass, as products that ready-made, yes. Okay. So I wanted to maybe understand how far we are as a country to then having our own manufacturing sites where we don't actually have to take our own byproducts raw in that state and then giving them to another nation, as opposed to having them here and we can just transform them right from the comfort of our borders, di kgona gore di boele back to our consumers or customers, and then maybe be exported internationally as the finished product. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. That's where the African Continental Free Trade Area comes in. That's the song which gets sung there. Is the primary objective of that free trade area. We, as African ministers and certainly the presidents or heads of state, we sing that song that we should minimize extraction of raw material out of Africa, dispatch of them to Europe for them value added there in Europe, and then imported by Africans back at much higher price. So that's the
Yes.
discussion with the whole of Africa. Is a conversation which the whole of Africa is now holding. And we are now on a trajectory to ensure that we assist in the full manufacture of goods. Some heads of
Yeah.
state have actually banned their dispatch out of their countries of some raw materials. I think Zambia, they've no, not Zambia. I think I recall Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe, President Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe placing a moratorium or some kind of blockade on movement of some raw material out of enforcing or compelling the value addition within Zimbabwe.
Yes.
So it is those kind of statutory instruments that I think we need to come up with the material being extracted out of this country and being dispatched outside for value addition. We need to come up with statutory instruments prohibiting that being done. But the diamond story, what happened, when you move these diamonds from London and brought them down into Botswana, the Ministry of Minerals are doing a good job in attracting polishers into the country to polish them and try to manufacture jewelry out of this country. KGK, I think that's what they're called. An example I can cite. And actually now accessing the American market with their jewelry under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, emanating springboarding from Botswana. So even with what you saw at Botash, we need to. It's not a matter that's within the tip of my fingers, but since you brought it to my attention, I need to look at it more to see how it's done with a view to possibly encouraging and incentivizing, if needs be, partnering with a local who has the skill and technical know-how to value add locally, and so that we then export the finished product that can create a great deal of jobs.
Yes,
we have
a lot.
stalls here. We just passed through stalls here, and they did sensitize His Honor the Vice President when he was walking through them. That's some of the challenge which they're facing. But other things, we need to look at our volumes. It's got to be done in volumes. There's got to be the product available in volumes for it to be worthwhile value adding locally out of those products. So I'll look at those. Sorry, at the moment they're not the tip of my fingers, so I can't take it any higher than you possibly can.
No, at least I've brought to your attention. So, I think the opportunity to talk to a leader helps in that regard, because you show them, you paint them the picture. Have you thought about it? Have you maybe tried to implement it? If not, then maybe you can look into it. Okay, raw product, value added, we spend more money, although it's all from right here, right under our foot, So it's just something that I think maybe it was worthy to talk about. And I think as we wrap up our conversation, Honorable, maybe
in the copper,
yes,
in Khanzi. I learned when we were engaging with Sandfire that all of it is going to be exported, and I think they wanted to export it via Namibia. And I discovered when I was in discussions with them that at that time, I'm not so sure if they've improved, whether there were no plans to empower or to use Botswana trucks to evacuate the product out of Khanzi through Namibia. They're all foreigners, but when we met, we had a deliberate discussion. We encouraged them that they should really use Botswana trucks because much of the traveling is done within Botswana. In fact, you are now dealing with a product which emanates from Botswana. It only makes sense that it must then be transported by Botswana trucks. We spoke about a lot of things, including value chain development. Once we have mines, we have everything which comes with a mine. You have clothes, you have PPEs. You ask them, really, you need to uniforms. you need to get Botswana to be the ones who supply you less and less foreign imported goods. So we have these mines where where copper is dispatched elsewhere. Well, we engaged and they indicated that we don't have specialties, we don't have experts which can value add copper here locally. And the sentiment which came from them was that it's astronomically expensive to set up. So it's not something within their foresight to set up something of that sort. But
Yeah.
obviously, the ideal thing would have been to value add on the copper here locally in Botswana. But we are talking in the region in SADC, not in SADC, in SACU, because we know that no single SACU member can go it alone with a product, and we can't try to do everything at once. We must assign production of products to certain countries who have a competitive edge, and then others then support that country. So even with copper, obviously the Zambians would say, no, if a plant is to be constructed, they would want it in Zambia.
Yes,
But we also look at it, we say, who has the copper in greatest quantities? Those folks say that the copper they found in Khanzi is far outweighs the copper which is in Zambia. But it's a debate I'll have with my counterpart when the time comes. But I agree entirely that some of these mining, we know that we mine coal here, it gets dispatched,
Yes.
it goes elsewhere. So I think we need to be deliberate, and that's where innovation comes in. His Excellency did say that he'll ensure that his government is going to deploy large funds, if larger than ever before, to research and innovation. Our young folks, boys and girls, they need to know, they need to acquire the skill. And we need to find capital for them, because these things are capital intensive to set up processing plants which add value addition to these minerals of ours. They need capital, we need the loot, we need the money, the funding.
And now that we're talking about the trading part, our roads, Botswana, are quite concerning. Kako side, it's quite thin. There's trucks every day. You can count up to about 200 trucks moving in that one road, but it keeps getting smaller and smaller. And I think it's quite unsafe even for tourists, because we do have tourists that come into Botswana, and they did note that that thing makes it uncomfortable for them, because Kobo London, Kobo Ireland, Kobo Australia, and they noticed that, hey, Botswana roads, from just the busyness of it, it's quite concerning for them. So maybe I wanted to know what your thoughts and opinions are, and if the ministry was maybe considering or looking into how to fix even our roads, Yana, to allow for that trade to be as seamless and safe for everybody that uses the roads.
Bad transport infrastructure is a disincentive now to trade. I'm very glad to say to you that His Excellency has made a deliberate decision, and he has pronounced on it that he's going to devote much of his energy and resources to the improvement of the road infrastructure. That's why these 10 million pulas which members of parliament get given, he has made a pronouncement that they're going to be used for improvement of roads within the constituencies.
Yes.
At present, he's afoot. We have deployed a lot of resources to the network of roads which are in the country. That's why today they're here to do a groundbreaking of a road, because without roads it's a non-starter. You can't trade. You can't trade properly. People want smooth driving. That's why it was so important for the Khanzi Road to have been built those many years back, because Khanzi was a potential frontier town, and you will see that immediately when that road got completed, suddenly it grew at an exponential rate, Khanzi. Some of us who did national service there, when I went there for national service, the third road wasn't reaching Khanzi. It came up to just after joining, and beyond that you had to do that road all the way to Khanzi. It was not conducive.
Yes.
But it then got completed, I think, when I was still there doing Terelos Chaba, and suddenly banks came, hotels came, shops came, trading, and that's why you see it's such a great incentive for even to find Sandfire now mining there. They've got free access. I can give you an example. In my own constituency in Muchudi, There's a road. There was a road which ran between Muchudi and Malotwana. It was bad, totally bad. More potholes than there was roads. And I remember a particular incident where a poor tradesman carrying carcasses of pigs, destined for wherever his destiny was. A pothole, the whole cargo overturned, was a waste. And as you know what people do when a car carrying goods overturns, Botswana do, they pick.
Yeah,
They pick. So they came and picked carcasses. But it was a debacle. It was a disaster. Witnessing that how a road can, if it's not properly done, if it's so poor, what a disincentive it is. So we are now afoot. The network of roads leading to major cities, major towns, major villages, which are potentially industrial sites. His Excellency, this network must be closed in. There must be roads. So, my ministry, as I say, ma'am, it's not a standalone, but it's one which has tentacles in every other ministry. So, one of our tentacles, you'd find the Ministry of Transport. It's not only on roads; it's even flights.
Yes.
Because Ministry of Transport and Public Works is responsible for flights. It's responsible for the railway. So it's our concern that the flights must be good, must be improved, because trade occurs through flights. It's our mandate and our desire that the network of rail must be up to scratch. Those railway lines that we aspire building, they must see the light of day. Mama Bula Le Palale. Your Excellency has long pronounced on it. I'm happy that there's some traction. When I some months back when I was in Rwanda, I had discussions with I think it must be the CEO of Transnet. It's a she, and I was a little bit not so informed at the time, and I thought there wasn't much being done, because with my naked eye looking at things, unless you brief me, I'm going to assume that there's nothing being done. So I was quite at the top of my voice about it, and she calmed me down. She said, "No, Minister, maybe your government officials haven't briefed you, but I'm working hand in hand with the Mamabule Railroad, who are at an advanced stage of doing it." Those are important infrastructure that needs to be done. We need infrastructure going up to Walvis Bay, because we can't rely on South Africa anymore. We're not saying that we are turning our backs on them, but having your eggs in one basket is a problem.
Yes.
We know that their ports are now not being maintained. The Durban one is not well maintained. It's so poor right now. It's dilapidated. There are untold delays of our products when they dock for them to reach Gaborone. So we need to have another avenue through which we can really and perhaps, who knows, maybe our dry port in Walvis Bay can be put to better use when there's more railroad. And it can also improve trade between us and Namibia, because my engagement with the Namibians to find out why there's very little trade between us and them. Indeed, there's little trade. One of the things which kept on cropping up as a cause of it is lack of proper road, proper railway infrastructure. It's really road. It's expensive.
Thank you so much, Erra. No, that brings us to the end of our conversation. That was Honorable Minister Mmusi Kgafela, Minister of Trade and Industry, Botswana, and we are out here at the 17th National Business Conference. Thank you so much, sir, for your time, and thank you for being a part of our podcast today, Erra. And from myself and the team out here, thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one. Cheers.